Hey everybody, it's Hellfire. Welcome to another This Week in WiXoss, covering all news on the English and Japanese side of the game. So for this week, on the English side of the game, we've got a clarification on the color rule. I misspoke on something on the last one, so I'm going to use this opportunity to correct myself, and we'll get more into that when we get to that section. We have information about the P12 pre-release event, as well as continuing with spoilers for Dissonance Diva. On the Japanese side of the game, the only thing we got going for that is just spoilers. There wasn't really anything announced in the past week, but there were a lot of fantastic spoilers and cool cards that got spoiled for this set, so it's definitely something to look forward to for us on the English side of the game. But before we get to all of that, I would like to present a new section on these videos called Crush My Board. Before I really get into explaining what these are, I want to give a shout out to Rue on Discord. She did these kind of puzzles at the Florida GP. I didn't get a chance to try them until afterwards, but I enjoyed them so much I asked her if I could take these, present them on video, and showcase these to the whole of the community, because I think these were really fun to do, and I feel a lot of these situations could also help with like learning mechanics, or maybe just seeing cards that normally you don't see play and maybe get people thinking on what can be done. So shout outs to her, and again, thank you for letting me do these in video format. So what these are, what Crush My Board is, it's every 2 to 3 weeks on these Week in WiXoss videos, basically. I will present you a board state, and you must win the game from that board state on the same turn. Some of these puzzles will be hard, and it may feel that you can't, but trust me, you can. It is possible. The solution will be revealed before I give you the next puzzle, and hints will be given beforehand, either on the video or in the community tab on my channel. I will post the hints, or both. With each of these puzzles, however, there should only be one main solution. There will be some variants in how these can be achieved, but the biggest steps to getting to these points are the exact same. But if you happen to find another solution, please either let me know or let Rue on Discord know, but please don't spoil the puzzle for others. I want these to be fun for everybody, and if somebody just gives out what the solution is immediately, then, well, it's no fun. I do recommend that either use to perform these puzzles with either physical cards or another way to basically have some kind of way to move cards around as you perform game action. So Cockatrice works, Tabletop Simulator works. I don't know about Untapped.in or any other program, but I do know Cockatrice and Tabletop Simulator, it does work. So when it comes to the setup, each puzzle, you will begin at the enter phase on your turn and have perfect information of the entire board state for both you and your opponent. So this means you know what's in their hand, you know what's in their deck, you know what's in your deck, you know everything there is to know about the game, or about the game state at that point in time. During for your setup though, assume for each puzzle, if I don't mention a zone, that it is the information in there is irrelevant for the puzzle. Or if I don't specify what the card is, assume it's not going to be anything that can disrupt the game plan of the puzzle. And I'll explain that later when I present this first puzzle. Also, unless otherwise mentioned, you will have access to all abilities of cards on your field as well. So we're talking about like once per games, once per turns, so on and so forth. And while solving, always assume your opponent will make the most optimal play to survive, which means you have to account for anything your opponent can do to stop you from winning the game. Don't just present the state as like, oh, if they have it, then they have it, because chances are they will have it. So, going on to the setup for this week's puzzle. So in your hand, you will have a Yogg-Sothoth, Code Labyrinth, High Circus, Code Maze, Nobody Betsu, Code Maze, and Glacia Azure Evil. In your main deck, the very top card, and I'll explain the main deck. If I say there are cards in the main deck, assume it is top to bottom in order. So very top card will be High Circus, Code Maze, and the next two cards will be Servants. In your Lyrig deck, you'll have a Bravery Herons and a Ray Absolute Zero. In your Ender Zone, you have a Zirconium Natural Element Queen, Mew Memoria, Galactic Queen, and Celine Tatsuki, Code 2434. There's one more card in your Ender Zone, Dark Energy, Full Armed. In your Lyrig Zone, you will have, on your left side, Mel Overrun, your center is Carnival TI, and your right is Ray Lunar Blossom. For your opponent's setup, in their hand, they will have a Servant. In their deck, there is two cards that are not Link's Natural Planet or Girapon Code Labyrinth. They're Signy Zones. In left side, Girapon Code Labyrinth. Center is Link's Natural Planet. And right is Girapon Code Labyrinth. The Life Cloth is 3 cards, none of which are bursts. So, like I said at the beginning of all of this, there's your board situation. Crush the board. Win the game on that exact turn. I will post the solution in 2 to 3 weeks. Now, moving on to English news. So, first topic at hand is the color change rule. I misspoke. There was a question that was asked in a Discord community that turns out, if it was the interpretation that I had it as, I'll apologize for not double checking the information before I presented the last one. I should have done that. I'll do my due diligence to make sure the information that I present you guys is as accurate as possible, so this kind of stuff doesn't happen again. But anyways, there was a situation or a question that was presented in one of the Discords, and turns out if it was the original interpretation of the rule, it wouldn't work. But there is an FAQ that it does work, and it's because I had the part that the English side of the game forgot to mention completely wrong. So, going through all of this again, current rules are all cards in your main and Lyrig deck must match your starting level 0 in color. So, Team Ancient Surprise, they're red, green, and blue. If you have that team, you can't have white or black Signy in your cards. You can only have blue, green, red, and colorless cards. Starting with Dishonor Diva, you can have any colors across your main and Lyrig deck. So, again, Team Ancient Surprise. You can now have white and black cards in your deck alongside the original, blue, green, red, and colorless. The part that was omitted and the part I screwed up, but this is the actual translation. This is what is currently in Japanese Diva and what should be in English, but they have not explicitly mentioned yet, is Lyrigs of the same Lyrig type but different colors cannot be included in your Lyrig deck. So the example I gave last time of you can't have your white Tama grow into black Tama or your black Iona grow into white Yuki. It's still a thing. It's still a thing, but it's more so you can't include them in your deck. So if you're running Iona, you can't run any Yuki. If you're running white Tama, you can't have any black Tama appear from 0 to 3 kind of thing. And again, this takes effect April 19th with the release of Dissonance Diva. So the interaction, I completely forgot. The interaction that made me double check this. There's a card in Legendary Diva, the most recent set in Japan, that is called Next Gate. It is a piece use timing main phase. Its use condition, you have Dream Team with one or more white or black Lyrig on your field. If you did not grow your center this turn, you flip this card in your check zone, and then your center Lyric grows into Utul's Door Overseer without paying any grow cost. We can assume already off the piece, but I have the card just in case. I won't go over what it does. But the Lyric it turns into, the backside of the card is white and black, with Tawil and Umar typing. So you would think it's intended, oh, sure, this is only supposed to be for the white Tawil and black Umars that were also printed in this set. Well, here's the thing, right? This isn't a Lyrig in your Lyrig deck. This is a piece originally. The backside of the piece is this Lyrig. So it bypasses this rule entirely. Because if you want to get super semantical, or get some semantics involved, adding a color changes the color. Like, if you're on Umar, the black Umar, adding white changes the color. If you're on white Tawil, adding black changes the color. But this piece also works with the blue and red Tawil. Because, again, this isn't a Lyrig that is in your Lyrig deck. It is a piece at first. So you can grow into Utul's Door Overseer from blue Umar or red Tawil. The only conditions that you have to meet when growing in this case is the typing must match. So as long as it is a Umar or a Tawil Lyrig, you can grow this Utul's over any of these 4 level 0s you see, basically. So if you're on black Umar, you can do it. If you're on white Tawil, you can do it. Blue Umar, you can do it. And red Tawil, you can do it. So to reiterate, the part that the English side of the game forgot to mention is you can't have Lyrigs of the same typing but different color in your Lyrig deck, starting from Dissonance Diva. Hopefully they will rectify that. But if not, well, we'll see what happens. As for few upcoming news as well, so the pre-release kits, we did see what these are going to be. It's going to be 6 packs of P12 alongside a pre-release kit that can contain one of the following centers. So any of the centers from Dissonance Diva. Your assist lines are predetermined. I'm not sure if you get 2 of the 3 or if you get all 3. So your assist lines are Lila, Eldora, and Ai. We don't know what the level 1s and 2s from those are quite yet. Your pieces have changed from previous release kits. You have Kiru, I can't say that. So you have that piece, which is a draw card or enter charge 1, main phase, attack phase. And then you have Afternoon Tea Show as well as a Dream Team piece. I can't remember Afternoon Tea Show, and that text is way too small for me to read right now. So it gets a little weird with Afternoon Tea Show if you have Hanyo, Miko, or Mel as your centers for the pre-release, because you still have to meet the Dream Team requirement of 3 or more different color Lyrigs. At least with Yuki and Tama, you don't have to worry about it, but if you end up with the other 3, you basically can't use one of the 3 assists that are in this set. As for event prizing, the winner prizes are the box topper PRs, and a random prize of the Santa Servant. I can't really say anything about weird, why are we having Christmas promos in April, but we have Valentine's promos in April as well. So, it is what it is. I don't know how the random prize is going to be distributed. Might be shop discretion. They might just roll a dice to see who gets it, kind of thing. But that's what you can look forward to for prizing for the P12 pre-release events. And on to spoilers for P12. Starting off, we have the partner signy for Yuki Savage Miko, so we'll go ahead and talk about both of these 2 cards here. So Yuki Savage Miko, at the beginning of your attack phase, if you have 2 or more Dissona, choose one of the following. You can bounce a level 1 Signy on your opponent's field, or you can choose a Signy on your opponent's field, and at the end of the turn, it gets bottom decked. On enter, look at 5, add 1, the rest go to bottom, and exceed 4 is getting a Signy barrier. So Signy barriers are a new token kind of type. what it is you get think about Energy Door. Energy Door says, like, the next time you take damage from a Larig, you don't, kind of thing, or other assists that have that. Basically, that's what Signy Barrier is. The next time you take damage from a Signy, instead remove this barrier. There are Larig variants of it as well, so next time you take damage from a Larig, remove this barrier. So it's just simplifying the next time you take damage, from this source, you don't. And her partner Signy. So her partner Signy at the beginning of each attack phase, target Signy in your opponent's field loses its abilities until end of turn unless your opponent pays a colorless. At the end of your turn, if you have this Yuki on your field, bottom deck target Signy on your opponent's field, and on enter, another target Desona Signy on your field gets plus 3k cross turn with a life burst of trash and up Signy on your opponent's field. This plays really nicely into the Yuki, because if you play it correctly, if you, like, your 7 limit turn, you have 2 Connect Desonas in your hand, you play both of them, you pick either the level 1 to bounce, or choose another Signy instead, proceed not to attack, and bottom deck their entire field. Great way to deny resources, great way to clear threats on the board, Exias, Remembers, stuff like that. And with it giving another target Desona Signy in your field plus 3k cross turn, it can create some big powerhouses on your end as well for defense. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I love these types of cards that can tax or control my opponent for what they're doing, so I'm going to have fun personally. I don't think my locals will, but that's fine. They'll learn eventually. I love you guys. I promise I don't do this on purpose. Continuing on with spoilers, we got Mel's partner Signy, BFF Desona, so we'll talk about Mel here as well. Mel, Lady of the Camellias, at the beginning of your attack phase. If all Signy in your field are Desona, you can give a Signy on your field 5k, and you also may pay a green and a colorless to give it S Lancer. And then exceed 4, alongside paying a green into colorless, shuffle your deck, top card of deck to Life Cloth. S Lancer, if you're unaware or just need a little refresher, S Lancer is the better version of Lancer. Lancer is an effect that says when this Signy vanishes its battle opponent, crush one of your opponent's Life Cloth. S Lancer does the same thing, but also has the added ability of, if your opponent does not have any Life Cloth, instead deal 1 damage to your opponent. So S Lancer is a way to end the game, basically. Since Lancer can't deal damage specifically, it can only crush Life Cloth, it doesn't specify damage. S Lancer crushes unless there's no cloth, then it becomes damage. It was really interesting to just have a once per turn basic S Lancer, creating a threat on every single at every single opportunity that you can. And then her partner Signy, BFF Desona, so long as you have the Mel on your field, this gets 5k for each card underneath this. The beginning of your attack phase, you may put up to 1 Desona card underneath this Signy into its owner's enter zone. On enter, the top 2 cards of your deck go under the Signy, and action, pay 5 coins to give this Lancer until end of turn. I don't think that action is ever going to be used. It is a way to generate some enter if need be. 20k body on play, and it can stay a 20k body as long as possible. Make it 25k with a Mel ability, or you can just play both of these and get 2 free enter, and then the Mel ability will make one of them 20k, the other one will stay 15k. This card seems great all around. Resource generation, big body that's just hard to get rid of. And also can just have the added benefit of just having Lancer for no reason. So, that'll be it for Mel. And then last of the partner Signies that we have for this set, we have Tama and her partner Destro Desona. So this Tama Dishonor Signy in your field and in your enter zone are additionally black, so this does get around enter burden strategies such as like X Crossfire, being able to trash cards in your opponent's enter that don't share a color. Since this makes all Signy on your field and enter zone additionally black, they now share the color, so you don't have to worry about getting enter burned with Tama. Once per turn, you can pay 2 black if there are 2 more Dishonor on your field. Trash target Signy on your opponent's field, and then exceed 4. Put up to 3 target Dishonor Signy from your trash onto the field. Great way to create a board state if your hand's getting like discarded the entire time, or a way to get like the big threats back onto your field after they've been taken care of. All in all, really fun. Looks like a really fun Lurig to play around. I probably won't be messing with it. But looks really fun. Destro Dishonor full armed. Auto at the beginning of your attack phase. A Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 1k for each black Signy on your field. So if you have the full field, it's minus 3k at the beginning of every single turn, or every single attack phase. And on enter, if there is the Tama on your field, if target Signy on your opponent's field is vanished, it is put to the trash instead of the enter zone. So it's also a great way for resource denial. Plays really well with Tama's once per turn action. Just pay 2 black, trash something on your opponent's field, play this, pick something else. When it gets vanished, it gets trashed instead. So it's really great resource denial. Not as fast as the Yuki, in my opinion, but it's still powerful nonetheless. She has a life burst of vanish target level 2 or less Signy on your opponent's field. Not really as great as a life burst compared to the previous 2 cards, since BFF Dishonor is the vanish, a 7k or more, and as we see here, and the Connect Dishonor is just trashing up. Honestly, out of all the life bursts, BFF Dishonor is probably the best between all the bursts, but these are still pretty alright bursts all around. And that's it for the partner Signy alongside their Lurigs. Going to just normal, like commons and rares and stuff like that, we've got Twill Dishonor and Nova Dishonor. Twill Dishonor, when this attacks, if you have 7 or more Dishonor cards across your trash and enter, you get to draw a card. And then Nova Dishonor's, at the end of your turn, you reveal a top card of your deck. If it's a Dishonor, this gets 5k cross turn. Both of these are great. If you're playing these in your Dishonor deck, you don't have to worry about these whiffing at any point in time. Twill's always going to draw you a card. Nova Dishonor, the only thing she's going to whiff on is a Servant. Even most of the spells that you end up playing in a Dishonor-focused deck are Dishonor trait, or have the Dishonor tag attached to them. So both pretty great deck fillers, really strong and sealed too, especially the Twill Dishonor. And then you can never like laugh at an 8k body. It's always a threat. A lot of things can't get rid of it that easy, outside of maybe assists. So all in all, strong cards. And that's all we have for English spoilers today. So we're going to move on to the Japanese side of the game, which is basically just going to be me talking about upcoming spoilers. So throughout this week, we saw the reveal of the rest of all the new Lurig for the upcoming set for JP. So we had Tama last week. So if you want to see what the Tama does, go check out last week's video. Tama's in there. We'll be moving on today, and today we're going to start with Hanyo. So Hanyo 3, Profuse Bloom of Flourishing Flowers. Before I continue, shoutouts to Tetris and Haruna on the Card Games Discord for these translations. You guys do a great job keeping up with these as they come out. And thank you again for these. So Hanyo, when this attacks, if there's a Jewel Signy on your field, you may pay 1 in a red. If you do, your opponent cannot guard during this Lurig's attack. And then once per game, Ambition. You draw 4. And at the beginning of your next attack phase, you discard all cards in your hand and enter charge 1 for each card discarded this way. Great, great way to just refill your hand if you've been getting discarded, so you can actually field stuff, and you still get some resources afterwards at the end of the turn. So it's very much a Hail Mary button, or if you just need an extra few cards in your hand for stuff like, you know, flat throw in the deck if you decide to run it, or it could play into her game plan as well, especially when you look at her partner signy here, Atomosphere, Natural War Pyroxene. So at the beginning of your attack phase, if you have that previous Hanyo, target a signy in your opponent's field with 12k or less power, and you may discard 1 jewel signy from your hand to vanish that signy. And then action, pay 3 jewels out of your enter to trash. This gets the following ability until end of turn constant. While there are 2 or less cards in your hand, this gets Double Crush. So just the once per game alone, this card alone can become a Double Crush. If you draw into it, you play it, beginning of attack, you pay 3 jewels out of your enter. This gets the constant, and you discard for a beginning of attack phase effect. Now you have 2 cards in hand. She now has Double Crush and becomes a lot more terrifying. And last, for the Hanyo side of the spoilers, we have her signature arts for this set, Bathe in Reminiscent Flames. Use timing of attack phase, target 1 signy in your opponent's field with 12k or lower power, and vanish it with the Recollect 4 ability. Reminder for Recollect, Recollect counts how many arts are in your Larig trash. So if you have 4 arts in your Larig trash, additionally, target 1 signy on your opponent's field. This turn, when that signy attacks, you may pay 1 to vanish that signy. So this can effectively be a stop 2 if you have the enter for it. But if you burn all of your enter to play this, you're not going to have that additional 1 just chilling to stop a second attack. So, just your generic 2-stop. I have a feeling that a lot of arts, even considering the ones we've seen today, I have a feeling like a lot of 2-stop arts are going to do stuff like this. They're just going to have like alternate conditions to become a 2-stop art. So, coming out of the gate, this is pretty alright for an effect. I look forward to more in the future. So moving on, we go to Purluke next. We have Lost Code Purluke. Once per turn, during your turn, when an electronic signy enters your field, you get to choose a spell in your trash that shares a color with that signy and add it to your hand. Her once per game apply, I don't know how it's pronounced, forgive me. Draw 3, then discard any number of spells from your hand. Your opponent discards 1 card from their hand for each spell discarded this way. Imagine just, having, a hand of 6 spells after you use her once per game, and you just discard all 6 spells, and your opponent no longer has a hand size. And then you can just play one of the electronics that are also in your hand somehow and get one of those spells back. And the once per game plays really nicely with her partner signy, which I'm looking forward to. Her partner signy, Vacuum Code Heart. Beginning of your attack phase, if there is a Lost Code Purluke on your field, you get to draw 1, or your opponent discards 1 from your hand. And then once per turn action, you may pay 1 or more electronic signy from your enter zone into the trash. You use a spell from your hand with a total cost lower than or equal to the number of cards put into the trash for this ability's cost +1 without paying its cost. So, for example, Trouble. 2 costs, it's a blue and a colorless, draw 3 cards. With this, it's now a quote-quote 1 cost. But you have to use it on something that is, this doesn't really affect 1-cost spells, so if you're going to use a 1-cost spell, there's no point for this. Because it doesn't reduce a 1-cost spell, since you have to pay 1 or more electronics to use this ability. And then finally for Pure we have her signature arts. Frozen Gear. Use timing of attack phase. You target a Larig or Signy on your opponent's field and down it. And then her Recollect 4 is additionally target one Signy on your opponent's field and down it unless your opponent discards 3 cards. This is so much cheaper of a 2-stop. It is not even funny. Unless your opponent just happens to have a fat hand size and doesn't care. But the ability to just down a Larig or a Signy for 1 is fantastic. If you don't have a guard, just target the Larig. If you're playing against Dash Hirana, for example, target the Larig. Hirana does nothing now. It's funny. But still pretty good 2-stops. Moving on to Midoriko now. Midoriko, type appeal. The beginning of your attack phase, you target one Terror Beast on your field. Until end of turn, it gets 3k and the following ability. When the Signy attacks, target one Signy on your opponent's field with power lower than or equal to half this Signy's power and vanish it. Or once per game, wanna target up to 3 cards in your enter zone and add them to your hand. Then target up to 1 card in your opponent's enter zone for each card added to your hand this way and add them to their owner's hands. So it's targeted enter removal. Yes, you're putting cards into their hand, but if their enter zone is filled with stuff they don't want anyways, it's a great way to burn out their enter so they can't stop what you potentially might be doing this turn. Especially given the fact that Terror Beasts like to get really large and in charge anyways. So giving a Terror Beast 3k and the on attack vanish a Signy with power equal to lower than or equal to half the Signy power is fantastic. And this, again, just like the rest of these, so I'm not going to be a broken record after this one, her abilities play really well into her partner Signy. Her partner Signy, Osako, Phantom Beast Deity. When another Terror Beast on your field when another Terror Beast Signy enters your field, enter charge 1. And at the beginning of your attack phase, if there is a Midoriko type appeal on your field, target a Terror Beast Signy in your trash and you may put it on the bottom of your deck. Then target one Terror Beast on your field and it gets plus power equal to the power of the Signy put into your deck this way until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is a great way to hit even higher power thresholds. So like for example, this card... what's a good one here that I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, think like Osagitsune, for example. Osagitsune is a Terror Beast. I think. I'm gonna double check this really quick. Yeah, it is. Wait, Osako is just... who am I kidding? Osako is just kid version of Osagitsune. Anyways, so Osagitsune on play gives 2 things 5k. You can now make something maybe a 27k if you give it to a 12k Signy, and then that will vanish a 13,500 power or less on your opponent's field. So it's a great way to try and get multiple, or great way to try and hit those power thresholds. But if you have 2 of these, you can choose the same Terror Beast twice. Bottom deck 2 10Ks, you just give the thing, you give anything on your field plus 20k. It's very selective, and it's a way to either keep some of your stuff alive or to hit those power thresholds that you need for the Midoriko ability. And last for Midoriko, we have her signature arts, Learning from the Past. Use timing of attack phase. You vanish a target a Signy in your opponent's field with 10k power or higher, vanish it, and then recollect 4. Additionally, the next time you would take damage from a Signy this turn, you do not take that damage instead. I believe she has an assist like this, so it's basically just an arts version of her assist. So again, it's like a really weird 2-stop. Why does Pure get get a lower cost, like theoretical 2-stop? Well, I'm guaranteed it's probably from the discard 3. But that'll be it for Midoriko. Last for the new Larigs, we have Urith, Barrier Enma. During your main phase, when you put a level 2 or lower Demon Signy from your field into the trash by a cost or effect, you get to summon a Demon Signy in your trash with a higher level than that Signy and put it on the field. So for once per game, Desire, put 1 Signy on your field to trash. You target a card in your trash without Life Burst and add it to your Life Cloth. So there's a lot of fun plays you can do with this one. So you like summon a level 2, do whatever it needs to do, trash it, and then you get to summon a level 3 and heal 1 off of her once per game. So it's really cool graveyard recursion. Demons, to my memory, is really known for stuff like that. So this just plays really nice all around. Her partner Signy, Ana Mirage, Doomed Evil Queen. I had to double check this one. I thought it was the same name as the Ana Mirage from the diagram TD. It is not. It is a different name. So when a Signy on your field is vanished, you mill your opponent 1, and this does activate when this becomes vanished. When this attacks, if the Earth is on your field, your opponent vanishes 1 Signy on their field. They get to pick. You don't get to. Your opponent does. And then on enter, you down this unless you put 2 other Demon Signy on your field into the trash. So this is a good way to make use of Earth's once per turn ability to summon out something higher just by playing this on a Mirage. It's fantastic. Last, her signature arts. We have Abyss Nostalgia. Attack phase timing. Target a Signy in your trash and put it on your field. Its enter abilities do not activate. And then recollect 4. If, additionally, this turn, the next time you take damage, you mill 3 instead. Again, another 2-stop. That's all their signature arts are just really weird 2-stops. And that will be it for the new Larigs and their partner Signy. So moving on to just generic SRs for the set, we have Curie, Blessed Wisdom Queen. At the beginning of your attack phase, you may down 1 up Larig on your field, then target 1 Signy on your opponent's field with the same level as Larig down this way. You may pay 1 to return it to its owner's hand. And then at the beginning of your attack phase, you may down 1 up the Larig on your field. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, this gets Shadow Signy with the same level as the Larig down by this effect. So 2 separate down Larig effects. So this honestly screams that it wants to play an older style Diva, because it's talking about downing, 2 different Larigs. I don't think you want to down your center unless you absolutely need the Shadow level 3. But the Shadow level 2 tends to be... the Shadow level 2 Signy seems to be enough in some cases. If you need the Shadow level 3, then you just have to give up with the Larig swing. Which isn't necessarily a downside, but I don't think it's an upside either. But this does scream like older Diva support, as they did announce when they were talking about this set. They weren't going to stop supporting team-style decks. So we see that here with this SR. Moving on to the next one, we have Sphinx, Code Ancients. During your opponent's turn, this gets plus 3k. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, target 1 Larig or Signy on your opponent's field, and it cannot attack unless they pay 1. I already like this card off of this ability alone. Action, pay a white and a colorless and down this. Target 1 Signy in your trash with guard and add it to your hand. So action, just salvage guards is really nice. And then Life Burst, trashing up Signy. Great card. This card does fit in a lot of white-based decks, since it does have the action. I think action salvage guard is a lot better like on play stuff, because at least if this retains on the field, you can still keep salvaging guards, whereas like the on play stuff like Orochimaru, you need to replay the card to salvage a guard. Moving on to the next one, we have Black Mamba type Dre. At the beginning of your attack phase, target 1 Signy in your opponent's field, and he gets minus 1k for each arts in your rig trash end to turn. So at max, she'll give a minus 6k. And then enter, pay 1, target a Signy in your opponent's field, and if it gets any kind of minus power by your effect this turn, it gets double instead. So this now becomes a at max 12k if you assign the minus power to whatever you pick for the minus, the double minus effect. Continuing with the black SRs, we have Bell Cricket, Great Insect, and I was really excited when they spoiled this one, not because the art is adorable, because its auto ability is super interesting. So the Signy in front of this gets minus 2k during the attack phase, and at the beginning of each player's attack phase, all Signy on your opponent's field with 10k or less power lose their abilities until end of turn. So everybody's favorite white Signy, Exia, if they put it in front of this, Exia now becomes a 10k, and guess what happens when Exia is 10k? It can no longer tell you no. Okay? Because it'll have no abilities, and it's non-targeted. And then Life Burst is a pick one, targeted up Signy to minus 15k it, or you get to draw a card. It's nice to see black starting to get these dual-moded effects that it didn't have previously. And just drawing cards is always nice. Who's going to complain about drawing cards? Moving on. We got one paragraph of a text coming out. Dump car, code Excel. So, Rise put on top of 3 red Signy on your field, so you need to have a full field for this card. A whopping 15k. Constant. While there is a level 1 under this it cannot be downed by effects, by your opponent's effects. While there's a level 2 under this gets constant. This Signy cannot newly get abilities by your opponent's effects. And while there is a level 3 under this Signy, this gets, when this attacks, your opponent loses 1 Signy barrier. So as we were talking about before with the Yuki level 3, this can just remove that barrier on attack without having to deal damage. So it's, I think, please don't quote me on this, I think this is the first type of like burial removal that we see without actually having to deal damage to remove the barrier. And then Life Burst, vanish a 10k or lower, doesn't care if it's upped or not. So this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays around. I'm excited to see what strategies will come up with this, especially since it has such a hefty rise cost. Moving on to the next card, we have Cordyceps, Natural Bacteria Queen. Once per turn, when a blue Signy in your opponent's field is targeted by your opponent's abilities or effect, your opponent has to discard one. So we basically have a blue Diabride here. But it has the Amoeba style auto. When this is discarded by your hand by your opponent's effect, if you have less cards in your hand than your opponent, you get to draw one. It's not like Amoeba where you have to have 2 or less in hand in order to draw one. As long as you have less cards in your opponent's hand, you just get to draw one. And then Life Burst of down 2 or draw 1. All in all, really solid blue support card. I'm always down for more control effects, as we've surmised from me really liking tax style effects throughout this video. And the last spoiler that we have for this week is Katmi, Natural Planet Queen, drawn by my favorite artist. Bless this wholesome art. At the beginning of your attack phase, you may put 2 level 1 Signy from your enter zone into your trash. If you do, vanish a 10k or more on your opponent's field. And then on enter, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a level 1 Signy, enter charge 1. With a Life Burst of vanish a upped or enter charge 1. Again, more modal style bursts. Love seeing them. I don't know how well this plays with Cosmos. I like Cosmos, the Cosmos deck myself, so I'm not sure how well this plays considering the piece that says everything, the piece that makes all Cosmos become referenced as a level 1. It doesn't count enter. So I'm not sure how well this would play with. I'm not sure how well this would play with that piece, but it'd be interesting to see if this does see play in general. If anything, with the piece, it's just an enter charge 1, and if you just happen to have the 2 level 1s, it is a hole, I guess. I wouldn't bank on it that much, but you never know. But with that, that will be it for this video this week, folks. Thank you for watching and listening. Give that puzzle at the beginning of the video a try. I'll post hints to it next week and also mention them in next week's video. Again, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in next week's video. And if you have if there's anything you want to see talked about in these videos, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you want to see talked about, and I will see you all next week.